So, welcome, Taylor Slango, to the My Light Away podcast. I am beyond excited to have you on. I was telling Taylor the other day, I feel like I manifested this and this. I just to get to sit down with you, Taylor, and talk to you and have you on the podcast and hear your story. I just feel so grateful that you have come on and I just know how vulnerable and um just brave you are to speak on the topic of your postpartum experience, even like your mental health experience throughout the process. And I know that the listeners are in for a treat to hear like a real, raw, honest experience about motherhood and what the start of it can look
Mhm.
like. And you are such a powerful mother. So I just am so pumped to have you on. So I want to ask you actually to introduce yourself and share a bit about you, what you do, and also your why behind what you do.
My name is Taylor Slango. I'm so excited to be here with you, Emma. I feel like I equally manifested this conversation with you. So happy to be here. My body of work has evolved so much, and especially a tipping point of it was becoming a mom and going through that initiation and identity change, which I'm sure we'll talk about and unpack that entire conversation. But the work that I do now is really with highly ambitious female entrepreneurs and helping them grow a business that allows them to put their family first and put their real life first and give them more of their life back, and to do so in a really nourishing way. Because I had built this mega successful company. And then when I had my son, everything came crashing down, and I realized, as much as I want to support women in the pursuit of financial freedom, I really want to support them in the pursuit of emotional freedom too, because I knew what it was like to be making good money but feeling like shit. And it's not the same experience as feeling really good and having that money flowing in. So that really is what I do now.
Yes, and just a little, I guess, tidbit for the listeners. Taylor is my coach,
Yes.
and I joined one of Taylor's programs a few years ago now called Five Figure Flow. And I just so resonate with your values. And Taylor, I know I have entrepreneurs in the audience. And one of the things that was most inspiring to me about you is like you kind of were that bright light, like one of those people that showed me that it is
Mm,
actually possible to have a business where you're not hustling all the time and you do create more freedom in your life through it, and it can be super successful and also fun and pleasurable. And then to see you become a mom through that process too, and how you've
yeah.
maintained that integrity in your business at every step of the way, like you just truly practice what you preach. And
I
it's
appreciate
just,
that.
yeah, and it's just so exciting, honestly, to see the different possibilities of how you can run a business that
Mm,
we don't traditionally see, and how you bring that feminine leadership style and embodiment and perspective
yeah.
to everything, because we don't always have role models like that, and you're one of my role models for this.
I
And I'm
love
just
it.
so excited about the foundation I have laid in my business, because it is setting me up to do that. So super, super
You.
excited.
Yes, me too.
Yeah. So, okay, let's back up to your pregnancy. Let's start there. I know motherhood starts before pregnancy, but this
Yeah.
podcast would be like a bajillion hours long if we backed up before that. So, what was pregnancy like for you? How did it go? How did you feel?
Yeah.
The different stages.
Well, let me first say this. I feel like I waited my entire life to become a mom. And
Oh.
my mom personally, such a big part of her identity is motherhood. And so I just kind of grew up idolizing motherhood, and just I know it's meant for me, and I want this big house with all these babies and kids, and I want this huge family. And so when I got pregnant, really I loved parts of being pregnant because I felt like there was this induction into womanhood for some
Mm.
reason. I
Yeah.
had never looked at myself and been like, wow, you are one sexy ass bitch. But as soon as that bump started bumping, I'm like, oh my God, like I'm fucking hot. Look at this belly. Like I just started feeling myself in such a new way, which really, I think did something significantly to my confidence. That's something that like came out and it stuck with me after pregnancy. And I was really excited. I mean, the year that I got pregnant, it was also the year where my personal life completely like deteriorated and like my family had had a big imploding and relationships were breaking apart. I unexpectedly had lost my grandmother. She was supposed to act as almost my doula in our home birth, and that was very shocking and unexpected. And I was 6 months pregnant, like sitting with her and like in her final moments. And there was just like a lot of big emotions that I was holding and then feeling super protective of, I know what I feel, my baby feels. And so it was
Mhm.
a really beautiful year and it was a really difficult year. I think that happened very, purposefully looking back on it. But I really wasn't afraid to go into the newborn season. And I think I was really naively excited to just be like, I'm gonna have this like scrunchy little baby and he's just gonna like sleep and eat and shit and burp and like it's gonna be fine and lovely. And it was very hard. And so like the pregnancy had really great moments and hard moments. And I think that really also carried on into the actual newborn season.
Yeah, wow. You went through multiple big life changes and like a loss as you were gaining your baby as well.
Yeah,
So, like pregnancy alone, and everyone has different pregnancy experiences,
totally,
but can be
totally.
a lot on its own, right? So then
Yeah,
to pile on, a loss of someone who is so close to you in your life, and
yeah.
then seeing relationships and family and everything shift too. Like, yeah, that's a
It's so
lot.
hard because like there's so much duality with motherhood. I think that
Totally.
you are doing the work, you're doing the Lord's work. I always tell you this, you're starting these conversations, but I didn't hear these conversations. I wasn't exposed to these conversations before
Hmm.
and just knowing kind of how to hold both. And so I look back at 2021 and I'm like, that will always be a significant year because that's the year I met my son, but it was also like honestly the most traumatic year of my entire life. So it's
Yeah.
like holding that, seeing both, appreciating both, moving through
Mhm.
both. It's really complex.
It is because I think a lot of the time you think it's like one or the other, like
Yeah,
it's either great, like that was a terrible year, or it was a great year, and it's not. And like even the micro moments of every day, this is something that I didn't really expect that still I feel every single day is truly the duality or multiple emotions at once on an ongoing basis. Like even in the teeniest little moments, like I'll be like last night I was like cuddling with my son and he fell asleep on me on the couch, and I'm just like, so like that just makes me so happy, like I'm just
perfect
like, oh
perfection. Yeah.
yeah, I'm like there is nowhere else in the entire universe I would rather be than right here.
Yes.
And
Mm.
and at the same time it's like, oh my gosh, it's like almost like a yearning or a grieving sometimes comes in for me of
Mm.
like just an awareness of how fleeting it is. And that uncomfortable feeling that pops up so much really prompts me to be present, and like
Mm.
savor and appreciate where I am now. But it
I'm
comes
so
up
glad
to
you
me a
said
lot.
fleeting because I think
Yeah.
that's actually, I feel like something is happening at a generational level. I was just at a family member's birthday party and he had turned 50 and he was like saying like don't blink because it goes too fast and you're probably not even thinking about that right now. And I was like,
Mm.
actually, I think about time all day, every day. Like I'm
Yes.
savoring every single moment. It's at the forefront of my mind how fleeting time is.
Yeah. Yes, me too. Yeah. And I think it's a blessing, because then we
Yeah.
don't accidentally look back and think, I missed it,
Yeah.
or I
Yeah.
wish I was more present because we're human, so we can't be perfectly present 100% of the time. Our brains don't work like that, right?
Yeah.
So it's also like present, but realistic about present. But I also love it as like on the flip side of that, a challenge for myself to be more and more present and step into that more and more, and just to
Yeah.
notice if I'm slipping out of that or so I just bring myself back quickly, you
Yeah.
know? Yeah.
And it's been really cool to watch you build a business that's allowing you to like, that's what I think about is when I look back, am I ever going to be like, oh, I made choices that didn't put him first? And the answer is
Mhm.
always no. Like he's always at the forefront of decisions, business decisions, financial decisions, everything. He's just the center of our world.
Yeah. Yeah. And you went into motherhood like that. So, as
Yeah.
a business owner, how did you like make space in your business or in pregnancy? What were you thinking you wanted the newborn period to look like with your baby and also with your business?
Yeah, I definitely prepared my business for a baby and I had spent, years building the business and by that point it was sustaining 30, 40, $45,000 a month without me having to sell anything new. And so I was
Which is
carrying that
insane. Can we just pause for
insane.
how incredible incredible that is? And if anyone listening is like new to that kind of possibility, like it's just freaking amazing.
It's life-changing. And so I was having this like climactic moment in my career and then this like downfall moment in my personal life. And thank God the money was coming in like that because I was holding clients and then my grandma was dying. And so even before maternity leave, I was having to take all this time and space off and the business was prepared for that. So I really thought like I would miss work. I did anticipate that. Like I'm gonna have like an itch to go back. And then I just thought it was going to be really seamless. Like, have the baby. I made my maternity plans. I had a mastermind at the time. We had guest experts coming in. They knew I was going to be out. Like, all the logistics were really ironed out. And I thought it was just going to be like one fluid line, like everything else in my life, like fluidity. Like, he comes in and I become a mom and we get, settled. And then we kind of just move forward with our life. And it didn't feel that seamless in reality.
Mhm. So how did it feel?
It was.
I'm like, that's
It
a loaded
was,
question, but
yeah.
yeah.
Well, Emma knows like so much of this context because we've had so many conversations. But for anyone who doesn't know me, I'm a big advocate at this point in my career for postpartum mental health and postpartum depression because I'm someone who has never really battled significantly with mental health. I had some anxiety in college, but really nothing like to put me on the map where that would be a conscious concern to me
Mhm.
going into the newborn season. And like I said, my mom had really pedestaled motherhood. Like I never heard about her postpartum experience, or I don't like she had a different experience. We all do, but
Mhm.
no one was really talking about how dark and scary that it can be if you don't have the tools to navigate that on top of I think it's like a layered situation. So I was like I wasn't prepared for it. I wasn't like it wasn't in my conscious awareness at all. So I was blindsided by the plummet in hormones and just feeling so not myself. And then it's like you throw a layer of lack of sleep into that. You throw a layer of now your relationship dynamic is changing. You throw a layer of everyone's like kind of overwhelming you with like how can I support you, but you don't have the bandwidth to even say like this is how you can support me. So you're like kind of giving there, like add the layer of I'm also not showering, add the layer of like who even am I and do I even want this business? And there was just this like stacking
Mhm.
that like eventually just broke me down. And so my postpartum period was awful. It was awful. And I just remember being at such a weak point in my life, which was so foreign because I am like, I'm the breadwinner and I'm confident and I have ambition. And all of a sudden, like, my husband had to like help me shower and like run the house and take care of our baby. And I was just like, this is zombie, the shell of a person. And also in the back of my mind, really small, was like, I'm missing out on these moments and I'm going to
Mhm.
miss these moments. And so, like, I I've grieved it, so I can talk about it a lot like more gracefully now, but like I don't look back at the first couple months of my son's life and be like, "Oh, the newborn season." Like
Yeah.
it was trauma. It was hard. It was horrible. I wouldn't go back there again if I was given the opportunity because I don't know if I could survive that specific season
Mm.
again. And now he's 2.5-ish. And this season I'm like, could we just freeze this in time because
Yeah.
now I feel the joy of motherhood and that overflow and just he's everything. He's everything. But back then, I birthed him and I was like, do I even want this? Can I even do this? There was so much internal and external conflict happening.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm so glad you're shedding light to this and also just, yeah, being vulnerable and sharing what you were thinking because I think that's something that really can blindside people, especially if you're someone who hasn't experienced anxiety or depression in the past. Like these could be new sensations. And you're right, because of
Yeah.
it's like what impacts our mental health, there are so many different things, but it's physical, right? Social, psychological,
Everything.
like yeah, there's a spiritual something going on too with like lessons we
Yes.
need to learn in life. And I wish that, every mom who had a baby could just like feel that bursting love from the beginning. But the reality is that is not everyone's path. And I think that's important to be aware of because so many moms feel so guilty and are so hard on themselves and think they're doing something wrong if they don't feel those feelings right away.
Oh my God, the shame is suffocating. Like, I just remember like looking at my husband and being like, you're gonna be the default parent. Like, he's gonna love you so much more than he's ever gonna
Mhm.
love me because we're not bonded. Like, I actually have never said this out loud, so this is
Mhm.
choking me up, but I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not bonded with this baby. And he's screaming and he's crying, and then you, his dad, pick him up, and all of a sudden he's happy. And I'm like, I don't have that. Will I ever have that? So I spent my whole life building up. I'm going to be a mom. It's such a big part of my identity. It's going to be so amazing, the best thing in my life. And then I'm like, oh my God, I'm a shitty mom. And it was like 3 days in, and you just don't
Yeah,
have like the groundedness to be like, okay, zoom out. You're not a shitty mom. Look at what just
absolutely.
happened to you. And I'm really mindful about the way that I share about this because I want everyone listening, like, I never want to scare women. And I think
Mhm.
there's enough messaging out there, like, just wait, you're not going to sleep. It's like, I don't want to contribute to that narrative, but I just can't help but wonder what would happen if I heard a conversation of somebody else's experience that wasn't
Mhm.
complete bliss and
Mhm.
how they navigated it. Would I have prepared myself differently? Would I have just been open to softening and giving myself more grace? But there were just
Yeah.
no conversations I was ever exposed to.
Yeah. Yeah. And with postpartum depression and postpartum anxiety, there are these intrusive thoughts that come in,
Oh,
and that's the thing, like, I'm not a good mom, like, or just it's like it can be mistaken as these beliefs or like this is part
mm,
of your identity that you're not a good mom
right.
and it's those are intrusive thoughts, like those are not you, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes to be aware of that and then always tune back into yourself. It's so hard to do sometimes in those moments, but there are skills we can learn to
Right.
be able to do that and take your power back over those intrusive thoughts. But they are so real. Like they are popping in. It's your experience at the time. And
Yeah.
for anyone who experiences that, I want you to know two things. One of them is that vision you had, you can get to it. Your vision of feeling more joyful, feeling that bond. Like you said it, like you have that now.
Oh my God. I'm the default parent now.
Yeah,
Okay. Now it's like the joke in
yeah,
my house because like the roles have reversed, Daddy. Okay.
yeah, yeah. And
I
also,
also think too, like you can
mhm,
have the best village because that was also my thought. Like my
mm,
mom is here, his mom is here. I have the best husband in the world. So even if, and I wasn't consciously thinking this, but like if I struggled, I knew I had a village. You
yeah.
can have the best village in the world and nobody knew how to support me. Nobody knew what signs to look for. Nobody knew what I was experiencing. I was like going through the motions almost like I was standing still and watching all this like chaos move in front of me. And like I said, it was like, oh, like, do you need help? Or can I do this for you? Or the baby blues is normal. And inside, I'm
Mhm.
like dying. And I'm like, they
Yeah,
don't get it. And I can't even verbalize it because I don't get it. I don't understand what's happening to me.
yeah, yeah, for sure. And with all of the changes, like all the hormones and everything, and so many people do experience the baby blues. So I think for someone who's maybe struggling a bit more than that, people might not recognize that it's something more right away because they're like, oh, it's just the baby blues. It'll go away in a couple of
Right. And then
weeks.
you have these like lame ass checklists. I don't know if you guys do in Canada, but like for all our
Yes,
like
we do.
newborn checkup, like, you know, do you have like scary thoughts? Check a box, yes or no. And you check the boxes and then they don't follow up with you. You're not actually like receiving support based off those lame ass forms.
Yeah, I know. And those are so inconsistent too. And sometimes, they're asked at 6 weeks, 8 weeks, like they're a checkpoint for the healthcare professional. Um, but even then, they might refer you out. If they do something, they might be like, okay, go
Right.
to a counselor. And I don't know what the situation's like there, but here it can often take weeks or even like over a month
Right.
to see someone. So
Yeah.
that's why, like, I am such a big advocate for going to therapy, seeking support as early as possible, being transparent with your healthcare professional, because we know the earlier someone can seek support, the better
Hmm.
outcomes they have and the faster they can get back on track. So,
Yeah.
I think it's so important to even like know what the symptoms are to look out for and get someone around you too as well, because
Yeah.
we're sleep deprived. Like, we're healing from childbirth. Like, it's not always, we can't always think clearly, right?
Right.
We're not set up to
Right.
be thinking very clearly in the newborn stage. So having
Yeah.
other people around you and a healthcare professional, but that's why I find it so important to teach moms the skills for themselves, because then you can more likely bring yourself up in the moments that
Yeah.
feel isolating, feel like just like maybe your partner's asleep, or your mom's asleep, or your doula's
Right.
not around. Like, it's a chance for you to access your own inner power and help
Hmm.
elevate your mood, your energy, and also just give yourself so much grace, even if
Ugh.
you're not fixing anything.
Yes. Well, I think that educating yourself, because then I like once I came up for air, started to do research of like
Yeah.
what just happened to my body on like a chemical level, what's going on with my hormones. Oh, moms actually don't kind of come full circle until 2 years postpartum, and it's been 2 months. Like, okay, this is much more of a like long-term healing process that I think is ever painted publicly in discussion about the fourth trimester.
Totally. I think if we understood more what was normal at each stage for ourselves and also for our babies, and leaned into more acceptance of that and created more space to feel
Hmm.
different for a while, that so many women would struggle less, because then our expectations wouldn't be so wildly different from our
Right.
reality, if we're setting ourselves up with like, this is what to expect, and like, that's fine. Like, I'm
Yeah.
almost 3 years postpartum with my youngest, and I still like have days like last night. He's just potty training and he had an accident in the middle of the night because he absolutely refuses to wear diapers at night now. He's like, no, I am just off the diapers in any situation. And he's been doing so amazing, and it's been like over a week, and I'm like, how are you not peeing at nighttime? Because like, I was expecting another year of nighttime diapers or more. And but last night was his first time that he had an accident. So I was awake, at like 4 a.m., like cleaning him up and getting
Yep.
him. Then he wanted to wear a Spider-Man suit instead of pajamas. So I'm like, Spider-Man suit on him to wear to bed for the rest of the night.
Best
And,
mom ever.
and I'm like, I'm using my postpartum like expectations even for today, because I was up in the night, and no, it wasn't all night and it hasn't been like
Right.
multiple nights in a row. But my point is, like, when you have little ones, you just don't feel like back to normal, energized. Like, it's a new normal. It's like a new
Yeah.
identity
Well,
that we have now, and new expectations that we need to have for ourselves too.
and I think the systemic expectations set us up to fail too, because if we're talking about it's a 2-year healing journey, like most companies give you like 6 weeks off. And then it's like, you have to like get the capacity to go back and function. And I feel like so much of our society is setting moms up to fail,
Mhm.
which is like jet fuel for my mission. Like I've always been helping women build businesses, but since becoming a mom, it's so much more intense because I'm like, I want you to have the choice and the
Mm.
space and the capacity because I think this experience can really like make you or break you. And I remember talking to my brother like my marriage is either going to fall apart and I am going to deteriorate and not survive this literally, or it's going to make us stronger and I'm going to grow into motherhood. And those are like
Mhm.
very a big contrast between those two paths. And then even I mean, I worked with a great birth team, so I knew that the birth plan might not go as planned, but then it's like I wasn't exposed to conversations back then of like if it doesn't go as planned, how does your body hold on to that trauma and that
Mm.
experience? And do I have the tools to process what happened to me physically, even if my mind can't conceptually understand it? And I
Mm.
just think there's this whole world that we need to educate women on.
There is. There are so many layers we can dig into. And that's what I think is powerful about our own experiences and sharing them and also visioning things in a new way, right?
Mm,
Like you are so good at doing that is visioning something in a way it's never been done before. And I think we can apply that to motherhood too, and also really just being in touch with ourselves to personalize how we want things to be,
yeah.
which I think is very exciting.
It is really exciting. And I think
Yeah.
your work is such a like change maker. Like it actually makes a difference in the world because like if I am lucky enough to have a little girl one day, like I'm gonna prep her for motherhood so differently than I
Mm.
was prepped for motherhood. And it creates this just
Mhm.
like generational really ripple effect once you start to hand those tools to women.
Yeah. What would you tell her? Like, what are
Oh,
some,
what an interesting
yeah.
question. I would say that like I think the whole conversation would be about duality. Like,
Mm.
motherhood is the most beautiful thing you'll ever feel. Like, I was just recording a podcast episode and I was talking about the best way for me to drop into the vibration of love is to like lure my son in with a toy. And we play this game where he tries to catch my nose. And I'm like, and he's just gazing. And I'm just like, this is like the most potent frequency of love. And this little boy is just looking into my eyes. So, like, it's so grand and there's so much love and it's also like the hardest job you're ever going to have in your life and it's going to change you. It's going to change you physically, it's going to change you emotionally. You and your partner have to be on the same page and make sure you're working as a team. I would tell her it's not always going to be 50-50. It's going to be a sliding scale, 80-20, 90-10, all over the place. My husband was carrying 90% most of the time. He's a saint, but like just preparing for the both and you can feel really
Mm.
happy and really sad and you can feel like you love your child and maybe like my thought was like did I have this baby too young? Am I still a kid? I was 26 when I had my son. So I was like
Yeah.
should I have waited another 10 years? So like that's all okay and both and all
Mhm.
are welcome. And I think just setting that expectation can change everything.
Mhm. Totally. From an emotional resilience standpoint,
Mm,
to be able to hold all of those emotions is really
yes.
incredible. And what I was just thinking, like you could tell her all this, like as she's going into motherhood and put it into that perspective for her. But it's going to be a reminder at that point because you will have already taught her how to just live like
Yes.
that, which I think,
Ah,
yeah.
I think about too, like preparing for my next baby, how I would maybe do things differently because I do want one more. And I've done a lot of healing on my physical body just to like
Mm.
be ready for it. Cause like we didn't really touch on this, but my birth itself was really traumatic. And
Okay.
I had a home birth. We can go into that. I'm happy to share. But
Yeah.
for my biggest, like my biggest thing is just having a communication plan for my loved ones. And so, like, how I bring rhythms into business, we talk about that. I think I need that more in postpartum because I found myself being like really questioning if I could take up space. Like, can I take a shower or like, can I just like take a quick 10
Mhm.
minutes versus like, between 10 and 12 every single day, it's mom's time to shower, to whatever. And we're just like, setting those expectations rhythmically so the
Mhm.
time is already carved out and I don't have to like ask for support when I'm already feeling so vulnerable.
Yeah. Oh, I love that you're thinking that way. And you can learn from last time, but also next time will be a totally different experience because every baby and every postpartum experience can be so different too.
Yeah.
And I just think for you, and I know I've shared this with you before, it's like think of how many tools and lessons and everything you've gained from the first time. And I just hope that gives you like hope and
Yeah.
excitement for next time too. Um, but that is a big piece of things that I work with my clients on inside my program is having those conversations in advance so that the mental load, like we don't have
Mm.
the mental capacity to be thinking, you're so tired that you're like, yeah, I don't know what I want. I can't even think straight, and then
Like,
it's
I
time
don't
to,
think
uh-huh.
women understand how sleep deprivation will hit you. I mean, truthfully, like they use that as a form of torture in a lot of countries. Like, think about that. And so,
Yeah,
I mean, for me, like, yeah, maybe you stay up late in college and you study, but to not get sleep repeatedly and to sustain operating on no sleep, you
yeah,
might not see it as a problem until it's here. But I promise you, like, it's going to be a problem and you
yeah.
need to prepare for it now.
Yeah, that was one of the things that was the hardest for me.
Oh, God.
And the first time around, I had trouble like breastfeeding. It took like weeks and weeks and so much persistence, and I didn't know if it was going to
Yep.
work. And we supplemented and I pumped every 2 hours, and it was just this whole thing. And I was so sleep deprived, and I was on a high alert for my mental health. And that's the thing that I've shared before too. It's like you can know all the things about mental health. I knew that
Yeah.
stuff. I knew what to be aware of. So I was like lucky in that sense, because that was my line of work. Um, but just knowing that doesn't make you feel better in the moments.
Right.
And so that's what I really did differently the second time as well, was more around like my energy and my mood, shifting those expectations, but also like you were saying, like being really proactive before the newborn stage comes and having expectations, but also talking to my support network around what would actually be supportive for me. Because some people
Yeah.
offer things that are support that they would find
Yes.
either fun, like maybe they're like, I'll just hold the baby. And it's like, no, that is not necessarily what we need. Sometimes, yes.
Yes.
But it's so important for us to advocate for ourselves, and setting boundaries is another huge piece of
Mhm.
preparing. Um, because yeah, sometimes we need boundaries. We can't just have someone come and like stay for 3 hours or come and stay for a couple of
Right.
nights, like even if they live far away. Like maybe that's not what is best for us. So
Yeah.
I think for people who are used to like people pleasing or just keeping the harmony in their
Mm.
family, this is such an initiation into boundary setting, and you're really the center of attention in the newborn stage. Like, yes, it's the baby, but also it's up to you to advocate for what you need and to ask for things that maybe you've never asked for, to ask for people that
Yes.
maybe feels like too much, like you would never
Yeah.
normally ask this person to do this many favors for you, right? But
Yeah.
people want to help you, and this is a time to just like use your voice to ask for what you need. And
Yeah, I think the mother is so much more in need than the newborn. Like the newborn's good. There's probably at least five people around who will like give them a bottle and cuddle them and change the diaper. Like they're good. The mom is the one who's really ultimately suffering. And you even brought up breastfeeding. I had a whole nother like, story about that
Mm,
because I thought the baby comes out and you put them up to your boob and they start drinking and you move on with your life. And lo and behold, that's not at all how it happens for
yeah.
most women, but we're not talking about that. So we have these unexpected variables where you can make a plan. You can make a plan for your
Mhm.
birth plan, and that doesn't always go as planned. And you can make a
Yeah.
plan to breastfeed versus formula, and that doesn't always go as planned. And like you said, the emotional resiliency, I think to have that adaptability is
Yeah.
a must because if you're resisting what's happening, like
Yes.
I think it's just going to store up so much more trauma of like you trying to hold on to things and then you layer that in with all the other things we talked about. It's intense.
It's so intense. And there's value in having a vision, but you just like hit it right on. Like you need to have flexibility built in,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Such an
I
important skill to
remember
have.
I had a home birth and I would say like it went well up until the very end because
Mhm.
I have a really short torso. So he got stuck, his shoulder got stuck
Mhm.
underwater
Mhm.
and they made the call to like call 911. And so I'm laying there like completely exposed, naked, bloody, baby, like the whole thing. The EMT walks in, someone I graduated high school with.
Oh God.
I'm like, hey, John, like like
Oh my
seriously
God.
awful. I'm
That would,
like,
oh my gosh. That would be up there with one of my nightmares.
and like he's really good friends with our mutual friend. So I see him a couple times a year and I'm just like, I hope that image is removed from your memory forever.
Oh,
I laugh about it
wow.
now, but in the moment I was like, I'm gonna die.
Yeah. I wonder what that was a lesson in. Sometimes when like things like that happen that are so pointed, I'm like, what could that have been? Like, what was the universe trying to teach you in that moment? Because
I know. And like there's so much chaos. So like no one gives a fuck who I went to high school with. They're trying to make sure like me and the baby are okay. But I'm
yes.
like, wait, we need a new EMT.
Oh my
Oh my
gosh.
God.
Oh
I've
my
never told
gosh.
that story publicly.
Well, I'm happy you feel comfortable sharing that idea.
So funny.
Oh man. Okay. So did you then experience birth trauma from your birth, or were you like, I'll just stop the question there.
Yeah, so he was stuck and this was like at the end of like 24 hours of
Mm,
non-medicated natural pushing and so it had been a day of intensity and I think they always kind of keep telling you like you're so close, you're going to meet your baby one more, but that was happening for hours and so my body had ran out of stamina at the exact point where his head was underwater. So I was like basically depleted in this bath. He was like drowning essentially. So they had to like flip me out of the tub. The trauma that was stored in me, and this is like super graphic, but I know this is the place to share it. My midwife had to like reach in and swoop him.
yeah.
And that feeling really stayed with me. Like
Yeah.
it was so palpable. And
Yeah.
then he came out, he was okay. I ended up like tearing in a few different spots
Yeah.
and then like a few days went by, I got my milk in. I was so engorged. I was making like 80 ounces every single day. It was so insane. Like we
Oh.
still have breast milk in our freezer from years ago because there was just
Oh.
massive oversupply that it was really a full-time job. It wasn't even pumping every 2 hours. It was beyond that because there was so much, but he never latched. So I was like
Mhm.
making all of this milk. We never connected. And I'm like, of course, because we're not bonded, he's not doing
Oh,
this. And all like I had every lactation consultant, every tool, every pump. I did everything within my means to like make that a possibility. And he
yeah.
never took to
Yeah.
it and I've made a lot of peace with that. That's okay. But that was
Mhm.
another element that I wasn't expecting. One, to have him not latch, but two, now I have this demanding, annoying pump that needs me 24/7. It's like I'm
Mhm.
babying the pump and not sleeping and then cleaning the parts and like it that really took a toll on me. So
Yeah.
in those first few days I had that like engorgement dealing with that. And then come to find out I got sepsis.
Oh.
And nobody really knew because I had torn and it was really painful. And I remember like
Mhm.
calling my mom and be like, "Mom, I I'm holding my pee because every time I pee, it is the most
Mm,
excruciating burning sensation. I'm sobbing. I can't even go into the bathroom. And so we're like, maybe you should go to the ER because we just thought it was like regular tear, infection, whatever. It had
mhm.
gotten to the bloodstream. And so I had to be admitted to the hospital. This was kind of still in the realm of COVID. So I'm in the hospital with a
Mm,
3-day-old baby who he's at home. I'm not with my baby and
mhm.
I'm making milk and my mom can't come and I'm alone and it was just a big avalanche of like one
Yeah.
thing after another where it felt like nothing was really working in my favor and after
Yeah.
that just wore me down honestly.
Yeah. You said that was a few days after you gave birth.
Yeah, like probably 3 or 4
Oh
days.
man, and those are the most emotional days. out of
Oh,
all of
I was.
postpartum, usually. Like those. So you were there at the height of like all the hormonal everything. So yeah,
Super hard. Yeah.
yeah, you went through it. Um, when did you start to feel like your new self again, or what helped you through this time?
Hmm. I was trying all different modalities of therapy. Like I was in
Mhm.
talk therapy, traditional therapy. I was doing
Mhm.
like havening was like one of the modalities,
What was it?
RRT. It was called havening.
Oh, I've never heard of it.
It didn't really resonate with me. Like I tried it a couple times. I was
Okay.
really willing to try anything.
Yeah.
But I think so much of that was just me needing to be in it and like come to terms with it. And that took me probably the longest. All of 2022, because I had my son at the end of 2021. So all of 2022 was just a whirlwind of breaking things down, rebuilding them, figuring out who I am because I had realized that my confidence was really, really knocked. And then I realized how important confidence was. And I'm like, I've been confident my whole life. This is my first time where I feel really fucking insecure and really fucking confused and really inferior and all these things. And I didn't know how to navigate that. And that
Mm.
was the thing that then started to pour into my business and pour into my worthiness. So that obviously, in fact, it impacted my financials. And I was
Mhm.
the only income provider for my family. My husband was home. So that created pressure. And 2022 was like a year where I was really sinking. And then in 2023, so 2 years later, I started to kind of
Mm.
get settled, come to terms, accept, make peace, rediscover myself, remind myself who I've always been. And I think by
Mm.
like middle 2023, I was like, okay, we're good. We
Yeah.
can do this.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. I think yeah, you gave yourself space to heal and like you allowed that for yourself. And just, I don't know, that an image is like coming back from when you were talking earlier about even like your relationship. It's like you could go this way or you could go this way. And
Yeah.
sometimes, like I had a full-on dark night of the soul between my kids. And I just felt like I was at this crossroads and I'm like, everything
Mm,
could fall apart. And that felt like stronger because my anxiety was high. I'm like, or I could like tell myself I get to have what I want,
mm,
and just take like the tiniest baby steps to move towards that. I call that like the glimmer because I felt like even
ah,
in my most like dark times or like the times where my anxiety has been the highest, even if my energy doesn't feel good and I'm not feeling like myself per se, there's always been something that within me that drives me forward to feel better. And I
yeah.
think that is such a powerful thing to notice and hold on to and follow. Like, even if it
Yeah.
feels quieter, like a glimmer, not like this full on bright spark or
Walking into the
flame.
light. Yeah.
Yeah, even if it just feels like the tiniest glimmer, like that is something that can really lead to huge shifts in like how you feel and
Mm,
the reality. And then you can have, that bond with your baby and you can have the relationship that it's like a new evolution
yeah.
into our relationships, I find, when we become parents, because up
God.
until that point, it's just like you and them, you're probably like having adventures, like, and at some point in parenting, because now there's just more people to like nurture and
Yeah.
take care of, it's easier to become more disconnected, especially if you have a solid relationship where you have a really strong foundation. You're like, oh, that part of my life is good. But
Yeah.
sometimes it's like, oh, wait, no, no, you need to also work at that piece too. That's what I found anyway.
Yeah. And just like how all the areas are really connected. So, like, if you're showing
Yeah.
up in one way in a relationship, you might also be showing up that way in business and in motherhood and with your finances and with your personal growth, like all of it.
That goes back to identity, I feel, because that's like the common
Yeah.
thread. And I know you've put a lot of thought into identity and motherhood and like how it's changed. Like, what are your what are the things that come to mind for you when you think about identity and motherhood?
I think that when it comes to identity transformation, it kind of starts as a stacking of a couple things. So, if we think about your beliefs and your values, those are two things that really influence your behaviors and your habits. And your
Mhm.
behaviors and your habits heavily basically make up your identity. So, we have this like ripple effect going on where we have to kind of like peel back the layers and be like, what is this belief or what is this value? And then that's impacting maybe how I'm showing up in motherhood or in my marriage. And then that's contributing to who I am and what I feel to be. And so, like, my belief was, well, my child's never really going to love me. He's going to love his dad more. And so that belief then turns into the behavior of, well, like, you can just hold him because I'm good for nothing. And I'm just going to like kind of bow out and become the zombie. And then that comes into this, well, you're really insecure and not confident on an identity level. And so then when I go back to business, I'm like, am I even good at this? Can I even do I need to go get a job? Like there was
Mhm.
massive identity crisis, but it was because of that root of value and belief system, really.
Mhm. So what was it within your identity that got you to where you are now?
Out of it, like
Yeah.
out of that cycle.
Yep.
I started to really embrace a multifaceted identity. I remember that word started to really, really resonate with me where I was like, yeah, I'm this and I'm that and I'm this
Mhm.
and I'm a mom now. So, like, I do have different values and just one, I think coming out of it from like a hormonal standpoint of like, I'm a little
Yeah.
bit more at baseline and I'm moving my body and I'm like
Mhm.
nourishing my body, all the things that probably was the leading one.
Yeah.
But there was just kind of this moment where I was like, remember who you were. And like, there are parts of
Mm,
you that maybe feel farther away, but they didn't die. Like, look at all of the things that you did before having your son, and then look at all of the things that you can do now. But I had to really let myself burn things down. So,
mhm.
like in 2022, or even when I came back from maternity leave, I had all these high level clients, and I was like, I can't support you. And I just remember closing down programs, slicing my revenue so significantly, and just again allowing myself to be in that of like, I'm not
Mhm.
someone right now who can support you because I can't support me. So, there's
Yeah.
this like integrity checkpoint that I was going through.
Yeah.
So, letting myself take down programs and try new things and find my footing. And then I ended up coming home to myself of like, you didn't have to actually burn it all down, but you did have to go through this experimentation, if you will, to see what's
Mm,
next. And I think that was really big for my identity too. Like, who
mhm.
am I without all of it? Like, let the programs go, let the money go, let it all go and
Mhm.
find yourself without all those things and then infuse you into the business. And that's really what I did over the course of a couple years.
Yeah. That's so incredible. Like something that I've noticed, and I just, as I was listening to you, I'm like, wow, I even so relate to you in so many ways, like not from postpartum, but just from becoming a mother. It makes you it can make you question everything. Like every
Everything.
single part about you, your identity, how you live your life, your priorities, like your relationships. It can make you question everything. And I think one of the reasons why is that we now feel this responsibility of like raising a human. And there's
Yeah.
an initiation for us to consciously choose everything again or
Oh,
choose
that is
new,
so true.
you know?
Yeah.
And sometimes I think that exploring doesn't mean you have to burn everything down. And some people, I think it can be their path to do that.
Yeah.
Um, but I think we kind of freak out when we question everything and think that means we have to burn everything down because we've never questioned it before. Like
Yes,
we
it's
made those
so
decisions
true.
consciously before.
Yeah,
So why am I rocked? Right?
so true.
Yeah. But there is sometimes just this invitation to have to rethink and reaffirm the things that we once agreed to, maybe do
Yeah.
things in a new way, but that process can make you feel unstable and like
Mm.
so rocky. Like
I
I
think
felt like that.
that like really also pours into how you show up as a mom. Like I think we could go into so many
Mm,
different, aspects of this conversation, but now this is coming to mind of like I remember in the beginning because like you see all the videos like gentle parenting and generational wealth and da 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 da. And when you are like below baseline and how
yeah,
you're operating, like
yeah.
you can't fucking gentle parent. Like I remember not having the capacity to have patience with my son, and that
Yeah.
was a really big red flag for me because now
Mm,
I'm like I'm either going to consciously choose to like traumatize him to some degree and like show up as and with not love and compassion and like that vision
mhm,
that I always had because my needs aren't met and I'm not eating and
mm,
I'm not sleeping and I'm not feeling happy, and that is a directly correlated to how I'm showing up as a mother. So to put
yeah.
him first is to put me first, and I think that was a big light bulb moment for me too.
Mm, absolutely. It's like we have to gentle parent ourselves before we
My
can gentle
God.
parent them. Like
Yeah.
I have done like so much inner child healing and I like had like loving parents and like,
Yes,
like enough food on the table, like no kind of trauma like that.
totally.
Um, but I've had to reparent myself in like many ways and
Yes.
to then be able to model it to them. So it's like the inner work does take work and time and it is worth it, like as moms, and it is like it's kind of become cliche. Like we have to fill up our own cups or put on our oxygen masks first, like all those different
Yeah.
analogies. But the essence of it is true. Like we have to show up as the person that has enough overflow to go to our kids and also model to our kids what being healthy, being kind to
Yeah.
yourself, being patient with yourself, giving yourself
Yes.
grace if you're going through a hard time, holding all the feelings. Like that's like the ripple effect of like that's like my why, like I asked you at the
Yeah.
beginning, it's your why, like that's my why is like supporting moms and then we live in a way that then ripples out to our babies and I'm just like that just like
Mhm.
makes me like so happy every time.
It's everything. It's
Yeah.
everything. Mm.
So if you could look back on how far you've come and where you are now, like what, I know you probably have a bajillion, but what's like one big lesson that stands out for you that you have like really learned and anchored into and will always carry forward with you?
How you see yourself literally dictates everything.
Mm,
Everything. Like the way I saw myself as a mom impacted my behavior as a mom, my identity
mm,
as a mom. How I saw myself as a business owner directed like that impacted that. And it can go one of two ways. So like it really supported me in some seasons, but then I saw myself really small. And so I made myself really small. And then the business got really small or the relationship got really small. So like
mm,
your perception, your belief in yourself, you being your own biggest fan, like seeing yourself in this light of beauty and grace and just like being that bitch, like being the main character, taking really great care of yourself, that is the number one most effective, fastest way, in my opinion, to have a positive ripple effect on every area of your life.
So powerful. And like we know from the personal growth world that identity is the key. It's like the root.
It's the
So,
root. I
yeah.
remember in business, like when everything was in the downfall, it was like, this has nothing to do with business. It has nothing to
Yeah.
do with strategy. I've been doing the same thing for years and years and years. Nothing is broken on a fundamental business level. What changed was how I view myself. And then everything
Mm,
around you will match you. So just make sure that you're doing the work to
yeah.
uphold yourself in a way that you really appreciate yourself because everything will match up to you or come down to match you.
Yeah. And confidence just amplifies that. You
Ugh,
have the confidence that you can be that match for what you want.
I had a client a few years ago make a joke that like you could sell toilet paper and I would buy it. And she actually like ordered a roll of toilet paper with like my face on it and sent it to me as like a joke. And I look back on that and I'm like, I couldn't sell toilet paper because I'm a good salesman. I am, but like I could sell toilet paper because I'm confident. And a confident
Ooh.
person can sell anything to anyone and do anything and be anything.
Oh, yes. So good.
So
I
good.
love the way you think, and also what an incredibly deep lesson to have learned, you know?
Yeah, it changed me forever. And
Yeah.
now so much of my work is about cultivating that inner unshakable confidence and an identity work. And I'm so grateful that it's made my work so much more meaningful.
Oh, yeah. And it's just like it just feels so meaningful to be part of, you know?
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It adds so much depth and everything. Because I think so many people think, yeah, they need the strategy. If they just had the strategy, it could work. But the confidence and like the embodiment pieces are just way more powerful than that. And that's like the piece that people often need. So yeah.
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 So big.
Okay, Taylor, if you could tell a mom right now who is expecting, maybe for the first
Mhm.
time, what would you want her to know about what is possible for her?
The first thing I would want to say to her is like, I think it's really easy to be excited about your baby and all eyes are on your baby. We've talked about this, Emma, like the
Mhm.
registry and the nursery, and it's like all eyes on the baby. But like, I think it's so important for you to make time for you. So like as much as you're, thinking about the paint color for the walls, think about like what tools might be helpful for you, what resources, what support systems, because if we're talking about what's possible for you, everything's possible for you. Like I think there is a reason why women birth babies and men do not birth babies. The it makes you so strong, so resilient. Once you have that baby, you're going to realize you can do anything. Your body is so strong, your willpower is so strong, your intelligence, your intuition is so strong. Like it's going to show you a side of yourself that you've probably never met before because you've never been in the conditions to really push through at that level of intensity and physical labor and emotional transition and all of the things. So like the world is really going to be your oyster, but it's really important for you to take care of yourself through that process.
Mhm. Mhm. Wow. Yes. Love it.
Yes.
I'm just like Kayla, how can people find you? Where can they connect with you? What's the best
Yes,
place?
find me on Instagram. That's where I hang out the most at Taylor Slango. I have a podcast as well, Harmonizing Her, and it's really all about harmonizing the duality and all the different facets and pieces of you in your life. So that would be a great place to plug in and come find me.
It's so good. I love your podcast. So
So
go
exciting.
go listen. And is there anything coming up for you? Because I have some entrepreneurs who listen. Any invitations, anything you have coming up you're excited about?
I do, and I think you're gonna be excited about this one too, Emma. But so in a few weeks, starting in April, I am hosting a 30-day experiment, basically, and it is called the Embodied Wealthy Woman. And it's basically a 30-day container you can drop in for 30 day or $30. It's gonna be a $30 buy-in for 30 days and come show up for yourself. This is all about embodying the next level, embodying the wealthy woman, embodying your values and behaviors that impact the habits and identity. So if you're feeling drawn to this conversation of transformation at an identity level, that would be a great place for you to start.
Yes, come join us in that because I'm so
Yes.
excited for that.
Me
I am
too.
like yeah, I'm just so excited to have 30 full days of like
I know.
that. It's gonna be so impactful. So come join us. Yeah.
Yes. It's going to be a blast,
Yeah.
especially if you are preparing for a mother or for motherhood. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Taylor, for coming on. It's just
Yes.
such a pleasure to have you.
Thank you for having me. What a great conversation.
I hope you enjoyed that episode as much as I enjoyed having that conversation with Taylor. And I hope that you felt like you were part of it and you got an inside glimpse into how motherhood can be, real life feelings that come up for all of us. And whether you experience postpartum depression or not, you will experience some anxious thoughts from time to time as a mom. You will sometimes question your life, your priorities. Like, motherhood really is this invitation. And before I ended the episode, I wanted to talk more about something really important that Taylor said. And it was around giving yourself the tools to support yourself through motherhood. Um, it's not something we have really been seeking out because these types of supports haven't always existed for us. And it's why I created the My Lighter Motherhood program. You know, I've been in the mental health field as a researcher and in different roles for the past over 13 years now. And I love being a mum and I knew so much about mental health, but just knowing something doesn't always mean that you're going to feel good in the moment. So, knowing that you're experiencing depression or anxiety doesn't really help you feel better, right? And the lens that I take in my work, the lens I've infused into my signature program and really poured over a decade of knowledge and experience into this program, the unique lens I take through it is I take a preventative approach. Our society is so reactive when it comes to our mental health. You know, I even think back to myself, my own journey. If my mental health has dipped in my life, it's then that I tend to seek out therapy. It's then that I, go to my doctor and talk to them about it. Prevention is so much more powerful because the goal there is to stay healthy, right? So if you're someone, maybe you're pregnant right now, maybe you are in the postpartum period, there is so much value in pouring some attention into yourself, your mental health, your emotional well-being to keep yourself healthy. That is so powerful. So, so powerful. And in the same breath, if you are listening to this and your mental health is not doing well, you are in the new motherhood stage, maybe you're experiencing some of the same thoughts and feelings that Taylor had when she was going through postpartum depression. And I just want you to know that there are supports out there for you, a whole array of them. They can look, there are so many different supports that can help your mental health. I'm just sharing the one that I created because I believe in it so much. I've seen how how the practices inside and the tools inside have been able to help moms feel better very quickly, like sometimes within a week, like very, very fast. I think that is so powerful to give ourselves tools to help ourselves feel better quicker and in the moments that we need it most while waiting for other supports, while you book for that therapy appointment. But I just want you to know there is support out there. There is support available to you. Please take that support up. Hopefully this goes without saying, but it is a strength, not a weakness to take care of this part of you. It's your responsibility, and there is probably a glimmer inside of you, like we talked about in the episode, that is going to pull you through and help you feel better. The tools inside the My Lighter Motherhood program are going to help you feel better in the moments you need it most. And it is going to be one of the best things you can do for yourself at this stage of your life. Because when you are doing well, it benefits everyone, benefits your baby, your relationships, everything. So I want to share a little bit more about what's inside of the program. If you're listening to the podcast, because this podcast is going on YouTube, so you'll actually see the videos, but it's also going on my Light Away podcast feed. So you won't see the visual for this. So if you're listening on the podcast, I'm going to put the YouTube link in the show notes so you can actually plug it in whenever you get to, your phone or your computer, and you can actually look at it. If you want to follow along with me, then I'm going to just walk you through. Otherwise, I'm just going to verbally explain it to you. So I'm going to share my screen for my lovely YouTube people. And you're getting an inside glimpse here into the My Lighter Motherhood course portal. So when you sign up, you get your very own portal. It lets you know what you've watched, where you can get caught up, and it's this whole menu of amazing things that you can pull from depending on the exact stage you're in. So, for example, everyone starts off with the welcome section, and in there, you really tap into and get clear on your vision for what you want motherhood to look like for you, for the stage of motherhood you're in, and even your longer term vision, and anchor that in. That is so exciting and like dreamy to do. And as well as being fun and just this fun practice, it really sets you on a trajectory. So like Taylor and I are saying, sometimes in motherhood, you can see like one way of going on or another way of going. This helps you get clear on what you actually want, so you're more likely to bring that to fruition, even if the path isn't always straight to get there. So, next, you will be going into the Easeful Mama curriculum. This this part of the program alone is worth it, like worth the entire thing times like 10,000. This is the part that I've really poured in over 10 years of experience in the mental health field, and the most effective practices that will help you feel present, feel relaxed, feel healthy, feel vibrant as a mom. Those are the parts that are truly going to fill you up and allow you to be present no matter what. Even if you're having a hard day, you will still be present. When I think back of my motherhood journey, I think about parts where my anxiety was really high, and I was still present in that. So this is really cool because it's kind of breaking down this idea that you have to have amazing mental health to be present. This allows you to be present no matter what, like with the fluctuations that we can have in our mental health. It helps you with that. And this this module alone helps you rewire anxiety, reduce the amount of anxiety you feel in your mind, your body, and bring things back to a better baseline, essentially. So, if you're currently thriving in the mental health department, this will even elevate that even more, and you'll feel even more joyful on the day to day. I use this stuff every day. And actually, my hairstylist the other day, I walked in and she was like, "What are you doing? Like, your energy is just so vibrant." And I'm like, I just am excited to just, I'm just excited these days. And I'm like, I practice what I preach. I practice what I teach. And I'm just like, I have elevated my joy baseline over the years. And it's just so cool how it's just reflecting out into the world. And I want that for all of us. So the next part you will go into is the Easeful Mama curriculum. And this is a really, really holistic perspective on how our mind and body connect. It's about nervous system regulation, which is so key. Whether you have a crying baby and you want to be their calm anchor, it brings you back to calm. Whether birth isn't going as expected, and it's gonna just carry you through like years into motherhood. I'm still using these tools inside this particular chapter when my toddler is like screaming because I gave him the wrong colored straw to drink with his smoothie, right? These are the things that we can embody ourselves, like we can embody that calm energy, and it exudes out and benefits our babies. So that is going to benefit you now and for years to come. Blissful bubble planning, postpartum strategies for self-love, self-growth. This part of the course is really proactive. It helps you really dig into and get clear on what's actually going to be supportive for you postpartum and actually be able to bring that to life. So those are conversations that you can be having now, either in pregnancy or in the newborn stage, and they get you to tap into your own intuition to prompt you to reflect on what is going to be most beneficial to you at every stage so that you're reducing the mental load later, which we all need that. anything that just reduces the mental load in the postpartum period is so worth it to do in advance. So I've got you covered there. Then you'll be going into the first few weeks of postpartum. So this is a very specific module for the time where 80 to 85% of us experience the baby blues. 20% of us experience postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety. Hormones are like raging. Our sleep is completely changed for the first time. And this helps you through that part. And again, that part of the program alone is like worth it. Then the next chapter is really deep. It's about your personalized process for mastering this change. Becoming a mother is probably our biggest life change. It changes us at an identity level. For that to feel more as though you're going with the flow than something that completely rocks you, you can actually start to embody and anchor in practices related to the identity work in pregnancy. You can start it earlier in your postpartum journey when you have a baby at home. And this helps you master that change, bring flexibility in, and it's your permission slip to let your journey look your own way and to find deep satisfaction and acceptance in that. Then we move on to the postpartum booster pack. You are going to love this if you have a new baby at home or when you do down the road. This is all about boosting your precious energy, even on the nights you were up a whole bunch of times. And that, the postpartum period is so notorious for having no energy, like low mood, like all of this stuff. I love this chapter in this module. I call it a chapter. It's a module, and I'll show you what things look like inside. You go into each one, and there are different videos you can click on. Use your intuition to help you pick. Be like, ooh, I feel like a meditation. I'm going to click on the expanding your heart meditation. I'm going to create more joy. Ooh, like I'm going to like master my energy more as a parent and see what that looks like for me as a mom, like my new energy levels. How can I boost them even more? You are going to love that for months and months and months into postpartum because the newborn period isn't the only time where you lack energy. It all like this, your baby might not sleep for the first year or beyond throughout the night. That is very normal. So how can we elevate your energy while honoring the stage that your baby is developmentally in and help you look after yourself in the process? So every single module has videos for you to tap into. There's also a private podcast feed. So if you want to listen on the go instead of sit down at your computer or your phone and watch the video, you can totally do that. And then there are also downloads inside the modules as well so that you can create your own blueprint essentially and your own manual for motherhood. So this is a very holistic, comprehensive program. It helps you keep your spark as a mom so you don't lose it. You keep the parts of your life that are the most meaningful for you, that you enjoy. If you want to travel, still travel, right? If you want to still run your business, still run your business and do it in a way that honors where you are in this stage of motherhood. So it's super comprehensive program. That's what's inside, and it is perfect for you if you are pregnant or postpartum and value nurturing your own self. And this is a program that supports you, right? Other things are out there to support baby. This is all about you, and you are worth investing in your time, your energy, your resources. You deserve to feel good through this. So that's what this is all about. And I wanted to share that with you. Before this episode wrapped up, I'm going to link the program for you in the notes. It's called My Lighter Motherhood. You can access it at mylighterway.com/mylightermotherhood. I'll also link it for you, but check it out and pass it along to a pregnant friend too, because more women deserve to feel supported and feel equipped to navigate this huge change in themselves and in their life and have good mental health as they do it and enjoy it as much as possible. Okay, that's everything from me. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will catch you next time.